All righty, here we are. Thanks for joining, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Thanks for joining us. We have an outstanding lineup today. Going to be talking about unlocking business value and the power of VMware Cloud Foundation Automation. So, a lot of folks have been familiar with automation as a standalone product and now as a component of VCF. So, we're going to get into a big deep dive with that today with some of our experts. Um, we got a couple of sessions coming up. In fact, we've got another one coming up today, how to quickly upgrade your VMware Cloud Foundation and import your VMware vSphere clusters immediately after this, because we're getting you all kinds of good information post Barcelona here. And then tomorrow, for those of you who haven't gotten the invite, if you want to check out the Private Cloud Modernization Program, it's a guide to private cloud transformation. If you look in chat, there's a link that shows all of our webinars. You can get in there, see what's coming up and register. So we're going to be moving over to the Zoom platform for those of you who are probably more familiar with Zoom than GoTo. So don't get spooked if there's a different format going on than you're used to with the GoTo webinar series. We will start transitioning over to the Zoom platform. And then, yeah, coming up on November 15th, we've got network visibility in a VMware Cloud Foundation world. And then that's going to be wrapping up for this week. And then following up, our next one's coming up on November 19th, unlocking the essential elements of private cloud strategies. So a lot of good content. Again, check out the link. There will be links to register directly from the link in chat to all of our upcoming webinars. Don't miss the one on the 14th. I guarantee you that one's going to have some really good content and some special guests. So that said, I think we can kind of get rolling here. Alina, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic.
How's
I'm
everybody doing?
doing real well.
Um,
You want to give us some
Wonderful.
introductions?
Yeah, let's move on to the next slide and talk about the agenda. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so here's the agenda for today's webinar. We're going to start with some introductions so you get to know your speakers for today. Next, I will continue with an overview of VMware Cloud Foundation, and I will do a quick double click into the platform's self-service capabilities using automation. Then Devin will follow with the market insights, which will be sprinkled actually throughout the presentation, so stay tuned for that. Courtney will follow and will speak to the total economic impact business benefits enabled by VMware Cloud Foundation Automation. And again, when I say VMware Cloud Foundation Automation, some of you guys may know it as ARIA Automation, and some of you may know it even as vRealize Automation. So I wanted to put that out there because we've had some changes into the naming, and I wanted to get that clear from the beginning. Then we will close with a demo of the dynamic TEI tool, and time allowing, we will answer any questions that you may have. So next slide, please. Here are your speakers. So my name is Alina Thylander. I am a product marketeer here at Broadcom. I come from the VMware acquisition. I've been part of the cloud management business unit for the past 5.5 years. And prior to that, I held various sales support and business intelligence and product marketing roles at Dell Technologies and Ericsson. But since joining VMware, now Broadcom, I've focused on the automation solution end-to-end, meaning working with the 7 pillars of product marketing, product operations, messaging enablement, customer references, competitive, etc. I worked on it, when it was called vRealize Automation and then ARIA Automation, and now here we are. It is a fundamental part of the wider VMware Cloud Foundation solution. And more on this in a few moments. But before we dig in, it is my pleasure to introduce these two Forrester superstars that are joining me here today. Courtney, she is a consultant for the Total Economic Impact, or TEI, practice at Forrester. And for the past couple of months, she's been an integral part of this project, helping to quantify Broadcom customer data, cost, benefits, business value associated with infrastructure automation investments. A fun fact about Courtney, prior to joining Forrester, she has worked to mobilize resources for conflict resolution and environmental conservation with a lot of organizations, but that includes United Nations and the Nature Conservancy, so really cool. And then Devin is a principal analyst with Forrester, and his research focuses on cloud native development, application modernization, development platforms, edge, and government application development strategies. So the fun facts about Devin is that he's bringing in actually a unique perspective from his U.S. federal government background, where he's been leading software engineering teams and government acquisition efforts to deliver applications in medical and defense use cases. And wait for it, that's not it. He also develops curriculum and teaches software development methodologies at Tulane University in New Orleans. So really, really cool. And I greatly appreciate both of you taking the time today to be here with me.
Thank you.
Next I'll hand it over to Courtney.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, we just have some disclosures, disclaimers at the top to let you know before we dive into a total economic impact study or the specific use case we looked at here, and how it can help you inform your technology purchases and investments. I just want to be clear on what this is not. So just writ large, this is not a prediction of what you are supposed to get in terms of your return on just the overall investment. This is an automation platform on top of a broader TEI that was put together by one of my colleagues looking at the overall Cloud Foundation ROI. So this is really a very specific, we call it benefits only analysis of the business benefits and quantified financial benefits that you could maybe expect from this type of solution. This is not a detailed comparison guide for scoping, for pricing. It is not an endorsement of the product. And because we have a really special dynamic tool that we'll be demoing for you later on, we just want to be clear that is all based on the inputs and assumptions that we put together within the study itself, and that the interactive tool is provided as is. We make no warranties of any kind there. We will dig into all the fun of what TEI is and what this dynamic TEI can do for you. But that's just some table setting at the top before we kick it back to Alina.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. So before we dig into that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about VMware Cloud Foundation. When organizations are typically looking to modernize infrastructure, they are often faced with multiple options and tend to find each option has significant trade-offs. So because upgrading legacy technology can seem like a quick fix at the beginning, but it can lead to technical debt and siloed deployments and unresolved organizational transformation issues and potential security gaps. And to overcome all these limitations, many have decided to go all in on native public cloud because it promises to provide a reliable framework for scaling applications and simplifying deployments. It can also deliver a consistent software-defined infrastructure layer, an orchestration layer for automation, an IaaS consumption layer for a complete self-service and scale. But at the same time, it is important to understand the total cost of this cloud migration. So I'm here to tell you that the private cloud, can provide the ability to deliver best of both worlds, because VMware Cloud Foundation is strategically positioned to empower organizations in their pursuit of IT modernization because it's addressing three pivotal areas: infrastructure modernization, providing a cloud experience for developers, and enhancing security and resilience. This comprehensive approach ensures that enterprises are well equipped to face the digital challenges of today and tomorrow. And here's how VCF aligns with these core areas. For infrastructure modernization, At the heart of VCF's offering is the capability to modernize the underlying IT infrastructure by providing a solid foundation for on-premises or for any supported public cloud. For cloud experience for developers, VCF enhances the developer experience and is offering this cloud-like agility and flexibility on premises. And security and resilience. Security, we know that is paramount concern for any IT transformation initiative. And VCF integrates a robust set of security features across the entire stack, is protecting sensitive data and applications. It includes things like network segmentation, microsegmentation, consistent security and policies, and also adds resilience architecture that supports business continuity, disaster recovery, and minimizing downtime. Next slide, please. So this would be a double click into the automation portion of VCF. So, VCF, through its automation capabilities, it enables IT organizations to deliver this modern self-service private cloud on-premises data center and on any supported public cloud. Providers of IT services, such as cloud admins, for example, can deliver a true cloud consumption experience to consumers, and that's including developers or DevOps teams or platform engineer teams through the solution's modern IaaS consumption surface. VCF empowers IT organizations through DevOps-based iterative development with infrastructure as code, and delivers virtually anything as a service. And some examples of that would be Kubernetes and load balancers, private AI, automation, and more. And it accomplishes this in a secure private cloud environment that is complete with governance and workload lifecycle management. Okay, now I'd like to hand it over to Devin for the next slide.
Thank you very much for that. So I wanted to take a step back and just give a little bit of context around the technology automation portfolio from more of the enterprise perspective, right? How these technologies are used and sort of what it represents in terms of an enterprise's maturity and what's required of an enterprise to make use of different types of technologies in this space. So the first thing that I'd throw out there is that if you look on the left of this graphic, you can see that as the levels of abstractions elevate, so too does a need for a greater enterprise maturity to take advantage of the technologies. So if we look at the very bottom of the pyramid, we've got our element managers. These are a relatively basic form of automation, but also a form of automation that have been in use by enterprise customers for literally decades, for almost as long as enterprise IT has existed. There's been some attempt to automate, but these element managers are extraordinarily discrete, right? You're not applying abstractions across the stack. You're not crossing any boundaries, be they domain boundaries, vendor boundaries. You're talking about highly discrete technologies that automate within a narrow set of capabilities, usually based on a specific technology. These things are easy to deploy. They generate quick return on investment, but not necessarily a deep or broad return on investment. They don't necessarily require specialized skill sets, which is part of the reason why there's such a quick turnaround on things like implementation. So if we go up the stack, and as we go up the stack, always think about higher levels of abstractions and broader applicability. Domain-focused automation is really that next layer of an enterprise's automation efforts. You start to see enterprises taking advantage of more consolidated vendor capabilities at this level, more abstractions of the management of offerings. You start to see more SaaS products, servers, and infrastructure being managed together as opposed to the element managers, which you might be talking about automating at the OS level or at an individual server or something like that. And domain managers, I think are part of the shift that has already been spoken about today, towards some public cloud infrastructure and the recognition that enterprises are not necessarily looking for granular control of all of their automation tasks across physical devices. What they're looking for is to gain the benefits of that automation, not and sometimes that means trading off that granular control for abstractions. Um, yeah, and that level does require some upskilling. This is where you start to see tech professionals can still operate and manage the infrastructure under their responsibility here, but you start to get into the need for some specific skills, maybe needing to understand a broader context of the automation and IT environment to take advantage. So the next level, you start to get into domain-specific tools with broader sets of technology. And um, when you look at this, like this is where you could start to see tools that are automating under specific domains, things like compute, storage, or network, or they could be even broader than that. You could be thinking about containers that cut across these different types of infrastructure categories and concerns. And I think the key thing that I would mention here is that this is where you start to see consolidation generate inherent value, because you're not having to manage a sprawl of individual tools suited for different problems. You start to get into the platform equation of value. Um, and yeah, the only other thing that I would throw out in terms of skill sets there is that you start to also, as you go up to these different layers of abstraction, the operator starts to need a different type of expertise. So in this layer, you start to need a broader domain expertise from the operator, a more business value focused operator, rather than one focused on individual discrete tools or technology capabilities. And yeah, I think I can carry on from there. That's just an overview of the different levels of automation portfolios that we typically see.
Okay, so I think it's time for our first poll. Anders, can you please bring that up?
Absolutely. Let's see here. Run this for about a minute.
Okay.
All righty. Where does your
So,
organization stand in its infrastructure automation journey?
yeah, so before we move forward, folks, we'd like to engage with all of you with a quick poll, because understanding where each of your organizations stands in the infrastructure automation journey will provide valuable context for our discussion today. So please take a moment to respond to the question on your screen.
Oh, getting some good responses here.
Loving it.
Yeah, really good. A lot of good engagement. Nobody fully automated yet, so that's a little surprising. We'll get these numbers up. Give everybody another 30 seconds here. Please lock in your votes. All righty, we're going to go ahead and end the poll and take a look at these results. So three folks have not started yet. 12 are in the early stages. 16 in the intermediate stage. They've automated some processes. 4 have highly automated infrastructure. That's really good to hear. But nobody is fully automated. So that's interesting.
Okay.
Awesome. That is interesting. And that actually provides us, I think, with some really helpful context, knowing where your audience really sits. And I think that that kind of just shows that we have a lot of value and a lot of opportunity on the table to talk about. And really understanding the total economic impact model and how the dynamic TEI that we're going to show you can be useful not just in thinking about how to invest in the technology stack that you have in many different iterations, but really the people and the processes that go along with it. Devin mentioned the skills and expertise question, and there's a lot of uncertainty as to how a lot of interacting technologies are going to play out in the enterprise. So this, I think, provides some opportunity to really think longer term about some of those people investments, while you're also thinking about how your technology roadmap is going to support all of those business outcomes. So we're excited to present you with the opportunity to dig into these results for the VCF Cloud Foundation Automation. As I mentioned at the top, we are not looking at the cost section of this. We're really drilling down on the benefits that sit on top of that overall cloud transformation. We have that in a separate TEI that we can link in, but we're really going to be focusing on what are the quantified benefits, what are some of the flexibility factors, and some of the considerations. We call them risks, but they're really variables that you could consider that might impact your overall results. So we'll just stay here for just a second more because it's important to understand the methodology of TEI. It's something that has been around for 25 years and is inherently grounded in the customer experience. We speak to customers who have this real measurable impact with this platform solution out in the wild, so to speak. So we use their true life experiences as the baseline of our findings here. We really do want to look both qualitatively and quantitatively at this. So there's a lot of quantified benefit tables throughout that provide, I think, a lot of footholds for you to understand our type of next level analysis. So we provide you with some of the customer anecdotes and metrics that are really supporting these conclusions that we're drawing, as well as walking you through some of the math and assumptions. That's going to be really important later on when we talk about the demo. So on our next slide, we are just going to dip a little bit into the findings, the analysis of this overall study that we took on. So again, based on the experiences of the customers with whom we spoke, we then apply it to a composite organization. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But for the purposes of our analysis, we found that the VMware Cloud Foundation Automation Platform solution could yield $2.4 million in total present value benefits for this fictional organization that we designed for these analysis purposes. A lot of the drivers of that value come from some improved availability and also looking at increasing deployment capacity, as well as a lot of other really powerful drivers of value. Again, this is for the study's composite organization, based on our customers who I love letting them speak for themselves to really support, I think, and paint the picture of how this solution, I like to say how that it might surprise, dazzle, delight the customers that we have spoken to here. In this particular case, we spoke to an interviewee who said that with this product, or compared to the prior environment, they used to take up to 3 or 4 days to deliver services. That could be super general and mean many different things to many organizations. But for this organization and for their internal customers, they can now provision them directly from the VMware Cloud Foundation Automation catalog in about a half an hour. They said that's it. They've gone from days to do a type of task and fulfill a type of request like that for provisioning down to minutes. I think that really does speak to the power of some of these drivers, really amplifying a lot of the capabilities that are kind of a choose your own adventure for the folks that we spoke with. I think we might have another poll coming up for a little vibe check, perhaps, before we go any further.
All righty. Let's take a look at what we have here. What are the biggest barriers to adopting and consuming infrastructure automation in your organization?
And folks, we're asking this question because in the pursuit of efficient and scalable infrastructure automation, some organizations they frequently encounter various challenges, and we just would like to hear your thoughts on, what are the most significant barriers hindering the adoption and consumption of infrastructure automation within your organization. And, maybe we haven't provided all the answers. Maybe there's more than what we have on the poll, but let's see.
Right, interesting. Good spread of answers here. We'll give everybody another
These are really
couple
interesting.
minutes here. Yeah, yeah. All right, lock your votes in. We'll end the poll in just a second. And let's take a look at these results. All right. Insufficient skilled personnel or lack of training, 25%. I think we can definitely work on the training part.
Yeah.
Happy to help there. Complexity of automation solutions and integration challenge, 38%. All right, good notes for us. Lack of entry-level documentation, 3%. Insufficient understanding of automation benefits. It's another place we can definitely help out. And then short-term focus to prioritize immediate operational needs. Get that for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on
Awesome.
that before we close and keep going?
I think Devin is up to
All
Yeah,
right.
well,
comment.
it'll be interesting to look at this in the context of the data from our data surveys too. And I think what I find interesting is that the live poll, and life doesn't always work out like this, but the live poll actually falls in line with our research findings here at Forrester pretty well. And I think that the two top responses in the live poll being complexity and skill gaps is interesting because in our survey of infrastructure leaders all over the world, we see the automation skill gap being one of the most painful inhibitors and to really taking advantage of infrastructure automation and being able to adopt these tools to modernize technology stacks. And when we talk about skills, it's not just about the skills to operate the technology. It's about the skills to modernize and transform operations. And so some of those skills are actually technology management skills, things like change management, communication, collaboration, analytics, project and program management. These are things that organizations need to really accelerate any technology transformation, and they apply here. So it's no big surprise there. But then I think when you start to get into the higher tiers of technology automation, you also require some things that require some thinking outside the box, creativity, an organizational commitment to innovation. And I think when you look at total economic impact as a concept, the organizations that generate the most value generally have a very strong commitment to skilling up in these things as they acquire and implement a certain technology. Next slide.
Courtney, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Devin. Thank you to the audience for letting us know where you fall on this maturity spectrum. Rest assured, the customers that we spoke with are also very, very special snowflakes, globally distributed with interesting legacy infrastructure, interesting, excuse me, use cases based on their industry. And really spoke to folks that had a great view into the underpinnings of the organization and in a lot of ways at the forefront of a lot of business transformation, I think, to speak to Devin's point there. So for the purposes of this study, we did speak to these four individuals from companies with experience leveraging this platform automation in all sorts of ways across their infrastructure and process transformations. On the next slide, you'll see how all of this kind of backstory will then feed into what I call the main character of our study. So this, based on the composite organization, we took the experiences, the stories of these customers, and we created what we call a composite institution to convey the aggregate financial analysis. The composite organization represents all those common experiences and helps us shield the identity and keep our customers anonymous so that they can feel free to share with us. This is where you want to start paying attention to what your own metrics, your own statistics might line up in order to start modeling your own organization's potential benefits. We have an exciting tool that we keep alluding to for you that will help really bring that alive for you. So it really does behoove you to start thinking about that. So this is our fictional main character. The customers are kind of the real life ancestors that are inspiring this narrative that we've put together. So when we talk about the composite, it's fictional, but based on the truth. If you do then want to think about your own organization, how it might compare to this composite organization and make some adjustments there. This organization is a $10 billion global company with 20,000 employees. Including, however you want to slice and dice those FTEs. The prior availability was decent at 99.6, but definitely room for improvement there. And just to give you a sense of deployment capacity, looking at 3,000 virtual machines deployed annually, that's just the angle that we took to really look at some of these efficiencies. These can play out in many, many different ways. I'll just give that disclaimer. Before we move on to all of the benefits, I think we might have a little bit more guidance from Devin to set the stage. Maybe we can go to the next slide. Great.
Thanks. Yeah, and look, technologies are always changing. And so the things I want to focus on here on this slide really speak to the market as a whole and how organizations leverage these technologies and apply the context of enterprise maturity into how they end up deriving business benefits from these types of investments. Because like I said, limitations in the technology side change as you iterate through a roadmap. In a few weeks, things could change relatively quickly. But when we look at the actual enterprise side of this, there are some inhibitions from enterprise IT leaders in many organizations from really being able to make the most of these tools. I think that there's been a chronic underinvestment from firms in automation due to certain challenges. There's a perception of tools being somewhat difficult to use, perhaps a lack of intelligence in tools, making them harder to align to the context of a business. There is, in any kind of technology transformation effort, we have to worry about the silos between domains. As I mentioned earlier, when we were looking at automation portfolios and organizations, as you go higher up the stack and to take advantage of more abstractions that break down those silos and those barriers, it does increase the need for skill sets. It increases the need for organizational commitment, right? And so, yeah, I think that when you look at the present state of many organizations, the ones who have not yet taken the leap or who are maybe not as automated as they would like to be, as we saw in some of the live polling, I think that these are some of the things that are holding organizations back. I think when we lean forward, we're going to a future that's going to be more abstracted and more automated. So infrastructure automation in the enterprise going forward needs to be highly intelligent, packed with insights. Organizations need to be in a position to be self-improving, to iterate not only on their skill sets, but to improve the business processes that they are trying to automate to get the most value out of that. Tools that cross more domains, more consolidation across tool sets, platforms rather than best in breed, and skill sets in the organization that can help break down those silos, leveraging these more consolidated platform-centric approaches. And all of this yields more confidence in the enterprise to make these investments. And confidence will yield more reliability in solving these complex challenges when coupled with the right technology. So as we lean forward into the future, thinking about automation in this context, organizations are going to be able to deliver technology services to their internal and external users much more quickly while complying with corporate and regulatory policies because of how they can bring this type of automation into their stack.
Well put. I think our next slide starts to really look at that overall spread of business benefits that our customers revealed in our discussions. And you know, this is really interesting to hear about all of your audience, where you're coming from in terms of, you know, some of you are earlier stage, some of you are intermediate. There's a couple of you that are in that advanced, and I think maybe to be expected, none of you are fully automated yet. I think that's kind of a frontier that maybe has yet to be achieved, and that, you know, we're all kind of looking towards that horizon. But for the purpose of, you know, the discussion of benefits over the next few minutes, we'll be applying this maturity spectrum and really trying to think about how this makes sense to you. Let's see that maturity spectrum one more time on that slide. We'll be reminding you of this as we go throughout on our next slide. And we'll skip over that pretty quickly as well. So yeah, we're in the early to intermediate stages. Maybe you're just getting started, but we're going to start again with some of the benefits that you can expect early on. Excuse me for one. So on our next slide, we're going to dig into our first benefit that I think really does speak to a lot of the main pain points that you all spoke to in these earlier stages. So on our next slide, we look at the benefit of optimized technology management. Now, what that really means, and what it's really, I think, trying to take into account and zero in on in the value spectrum, is thinking about, you've done your cloud transformation, you're working on your automations, you've had a lot of technology, hardware, and technology management benefits already. Read my friend and colleague Sam Conway's TEI for that part of the story. So we're being really clear that once we're now looking at that table of opportunity and value that I think we're all really realize that you guys are looking at right now, you're looking at some really, I think, valuable and further reductions in those technology management costs, as well as some further reductions in the hard costs associated with hardware, with licensing, and with, you know, all that went into what was often a very complex, messy prior environment for the customers that we spoke to. So really, I think speaking to the challenges that you guys mentioned in terms of the complexity of automation solutions, the challenge of integration, the short-term focus and to prioritize on immediate and operational needs, that to me is exciting. I think that speaks specifically and exactly to the value of this benefit. What is the immediate short-term next cost savings, operational savings, and we're all, I think, really looking towards that in today's market, being as profitable as possible. And then in the shifting sands that we're really faced with and kind of trying to stand on and grip today, speaking again to that personnel, talent, training, and kind of how do you align your people to support all of these processes. So, you know, post transformation, again, there are these boundless opportunities, lots of value to be had, but we see, and I think could fairly expect to see some of these more immediate consolidation savings early on. We have a customer experience that speaks to this just a little more specifically. They're talking about some of their networking resources, really leveraging other elements of their VCF environment as well. That's another disclaimer, is that this automation is obviously built on a lot of other different products and different aspects of the platform. So acknowledging costs and effort going into other people, process, technology across the organization. This customer said that their networking resources were saving a lot of time, because before they just needed a lot more time to configure the physical environment they had. It was maybe a 3-person job that has been really reduced down to something much more manageable. Now, for our composite organization, that driver is that 5% additional reduction in technology management and labor costs post-transformation, and that's $750,000 for this composite organization, which again, in today's market, we need to be proving value every way we can and as soon as we can. So this is one way of looking at that early on. On our next slide, we look at the improved availability, and that is kind of the logical next step of once you are really consolidating your systems, you're moving to a more resilient private cloud platform, you're starting to see those people process technologies then contribute what we are have evaluated to be a 73% really further reduction in unplanned downtime attributable now specifically to this automation solution. And this is also considering and on top of the analysis of my colleague looking at the overall automation platform. So really, again, thinking about how the organization is maturing and starting to reap more refined and sophisticated business benefits as all of these systems are interacting in more positive ways than their prior environment. So with this improved availability, our customer experience, we had a range of prior availability. We had different global organizations that have different experiences. So really take this one with a grain of salt, because if you have really good availability at the beginning, then you may see less of an impact than someone that's coming from a shakier prior environment. For this particular customer with whom we spoke, they said that over the past 5 years, really working through with this VCF Cloud Foundation system, their organization had less than 2 hours of outages. Again, that's over 5 years. I'm sorry, that was prior. And then when migrating to the Cloud Foundation automation onto their system, they had much better performance. There were no outages. Everything was planned out. Everything was structured. And they really got to see that reduction and the benefit from the reduction in unplanned downtime. Again, for our specific analysis purposes and for the composite organization, that's looking at another $676,000 in avoided costs related to, I believe we looked at some unplanned employee downtime. You can think about your overall the impacts of downtime on your revenue operations. That can be very varied and interesting to look at as well. So those are just a couple of, I think, really early on quantifiable business benefits that we can start to think about as we're advancing that maturity spectrum. How are we starting to really trace and communicate value of these efforts? I think we're going to be moving along in our maturity stage into more intermediate and advanced capabilities and benefits. I'll speak just a little bit to this, but I think that Devin might have more to say just after I kind of lay down, I think, a bit of what the audience spoke to and how that aligns with customer experience. In our next slide, which again is looking more into the intermediate and maybe even getting into advanced side of your automation maturity journey. So we spoke earlier about the skill gap and the insufficient skilled personnel or lack of training, and that can be for really, however your organization is delivering technology services or delivering your business. Really looking for skills to modernize and transform operations, as Devin was speaking about, can be tricky in today's environment. So having something that really reduces the cognitive load, reduces the opportunity for errors, and just really accelerates workflows in very amplified ways. You can see from the customer experience was pretty superlative. This customer said that the full they looked at the VM decommissioning side of things. They said that was surprising because they thought at some point there was going to be some type of manual intervention and IP creation of scripts, something that they were going to have to run manually for decommissioning. So they said when that all worked, they were pretty flabbergasted. We mathed that out to look at about a 50% reduction in the time to deploy new virtual machines. That's admittedly pretty conservative, but that's also taking into account that this can mean many different things for many different organizations. So we're trying to give you something that you all can use in an informed capacity. For our composite organization, we're still getting close to that $500,000 in business benefits. That's on top of the other ones that we were looking at before. This is something that can shake out very differently for different organizations, depending on what you're deploying to whom, how often. But we hopefully have some footholds in the dynamic TEI to talk you through in a bit to see what this type of more intermediate business benefit as you are getting your entire environment really humming on this private cloud. How are you starting to shift how you're deploying your business? I'm going to pause there. We can go to the next slide as we share with Devin, Alina, maybe just thoughts on, you know, where we are in our journey so far. We're getting close to advanced. Devin, how's this stacking up for you in terms of the customer experience, the audience experience?
Yeah, so I do a lot of research on maturity journeys in general, and it did not surprise me at all when the audience responded that few are fully automated. In fact, I think that the organizations that responded with that level of candor have a higher chance of advancing to the highest tiers of maturity in the future, because it the truth is that it's an iterative process. Even if you talk to organizations in other domains, when you're thinking about cloud modernization or agile transformation, there's a recognition among even the most mature organizations that it is an iterative journey and there's always more to do and there's always more opportunities to bring additional value. And so, yeah, it's for me that broader organizational context of how you can derive the benefits of your investment across increasing swaths of your organization is where you can get into those more advanced cross-domain maturity ranges. Yeah, and actually, so this graphic is maybe my attempt to apply some additional organizational context to the conversation, right? So I wanted to just take a quick look at something that, because the world is always changing, and because especially in the world of technology, things advance rather quickly. Many enterprises, because of a desire to take advantage of certain emerging technologies, have been really getting their data story straight, starting to think about knowledge management. There are really good reasons for this as organizations try to ramp up to take advantage of emerging tech, like things like artificial intelligence or analytics, right? And I wanted to take a moment to look at how you can think about seemingly disparate transformation journeys, like an advancement in AI and a desire to improve automation maturity in an organization. And they really aren't separate at all, right? So as you gain maturity in different domains in your organization, for example, things like knowledge management, getting a better data strategy, better data platforms, you can use those types of initiatives as an accelerator into something like an automation maturity journey. So your knowledge management tools and your data strategy act as sort of a feedback loop into the idea that you're always looking for opportunities, not only for opportunities to automate things, but opportunities to understand where automation will deliver the biggest bang for your buck, the most value for the business. And these automation opportunities are not just tied to efficiency in technology orchestration, but they're things that your customers care about. faster issue resolution, faster remediation, improving customer experiences. And all of that information that you derive as you go through these things feed back into things like a knowledge management or data strategy, and the loop continues. So it's an iterative cycle of improvement. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that few organizations identify themselves as being fully mature or fully automated, because as we can see, there is, as things continue to change, there will always be new opportunities to automate. There will be new technologies that need to be brought in, new transformation efforts. And so the investment continues, and maintaining that edge with customers and stakeholders is also a journey that should never complete.
That's great, and I think that really, I think, nicely segues into the final two benefits that we're going to look at regarding the kind of automation maturity spectrum. I'll go through these a little bit more quickly, just because they are later in the journey, but I think speak to how you start to see all of these incremental and transformative changes start to add up over time across the organization in many different ways. So thinking about the customer experience, again, there's a few of you who are in the later stage who might be in a position to really start thinking about your baseline on things like how much time are your employees wasting because of that lack of network availability in core services? How much time are really critical resources like your developers just twiddling their thumbs waiting for important critical environments or VMs or whatever to be deployed, and really just looking at like the raw time savings of what that maths out to. For the composite organization, the way we looked at those kind of two main levers of employee productivity amounted overall to almost 8,000 hours over a 3-year period, of course. And those are ramped up, I believe, starting small and as you get mature, really seeing that add and cascade over time. So for the composite organization, that's another $500,000 that we are adding into, that savings bucket, the improvement bucket, all the things that you want to see your organization do as it levels up into being a more profitable organization today. And then on the next slide, just another thing to think about as you are improving all of these systems. What are the cascading positive impacts on your organization? How can you see, this virtuous cycle of reducing the number of issues, improving overall productivity, and keeping people out of the help desk's way? It's not a huge cost to your organization, but it is a vital function. And it's also, I'm sure there's some research about how it's probably a good indicator of like your general employee well-being, how overloaded your help desk is. So while we are looking at a small dollar amount in terms of our infrastructure support cost optimization, we really were slicing through and looking at a very specific use case of infrastructure related help desks. You're probably going to see impacts, measurable and otherwise, in many other different aspects of your organization and other different ways as well. There was this one customer who was also talking about the manual process that went into vetting tickets, and that they're saving several hours a day just kind of contextualizing, prioritizing. That's really important high value time that is being put on something else today. So we just have a couple minutes left, and I do want to give just a minute to introduce you all to something that I think will be helpful to everyone watching today. Let's see, we do have a link here to what we're calling a dynamic TEI. This is taking the content of the case study, we're putting it on a hosted web page, and then we're activating some key assumptions within the organization. So that composite organization, I think we might be able to switch screens and show you that TEI live. We have a screenshot here though of what that console looks like for you. Is it possible to get a live just skimming around, or maybe I can just point you guys out? So the live website is going to have a lot of the different sections within the study kind of stacked in there. So when you are able to open up that link, you then have a configure data console on the right. It's that lighter green rectangle. There we go. What is preloaded in there with the green coloring throughout is the study data. That's the stuff that I told you about, our composite organization, our main character. So if you just wanted to see what the pure analysis was, you would leave that be and consume at your leisure. However, if you really wanted to start to understand how this might play out for your organization, you're going to go into that configured data console, and you have the opportunity to then actively change some of those assumptions to make it look a little bit more like your organization. Again, we're not making any promises here, but we are trying to provide you with some footholds into analysis as to what your potential benefits of automating these could be as you think through some of these assumptions as applied to your own organization. Now, when those are all entered in, you will then get to see your results, and then anything that was in the case study itself that's now impacted by your custom inputs is going to have that beautiful light blue highlight in there. So now you not only have the study that we lovingly developed for your consumption, we also have a bespoke, configured value story for you to really start thinking through what might this look like and shake out for your organization. If that wasn't enough, you then not only can see your results, but you can also download your very own custom total economic impact benefits of automation with VCF Cloud Foundation Automation. Really exciting. If you guys have any questions in the audience about how to work this, let me know. Let Alina know. I'm sure she's got many people ready to help walk you through this and really look at it in ways that are helpful to you wherever you are on your automation and investment journey. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat or if we have any reactions to this really cool new way of analyzing these opportunities for you, but that looks really good. Thanks for demoing that. Thank you everyone for joining and for participating in this presentation, and we hope it's been helpful for you. I'll give it to Alina for any kind of next steps.
Yeah, thank you. When it comes to, first of all, thank you all for this productive discussion today. It's been awesome. And as we move forward, I just want to outline a few of the next steps. Obviously, the first is clear, conduct this financial impact analysis that we've just shown you here. You will access, you will have a link to it and other materials in this presentation and a follow-up email. So then you can play around with it. And then this will provide you with valuable insights into potential financial impacts and benefits. We highly believe that, by understanding the cost, the savings, the benefits, you can make a more informed decision moving forward when it comes to infrastructure automation. We also recommend you to engage in a deeper discussion with, the account representatives. You can ask them to schedule a meeting at our executive business center, and then together we can explore your strategic objectives and how Broadcom can align with them. And last but not least, another idea would be to engage with the VMware Consultative Services. You can schedule a session for the advisory services, and they can help tailor any infrastructure automation implementation to your specific needs and challenges. So yeah, with that, thank you all so much for being here with us today. We hope that you found it very informative and very useful on your journey to adopting infrastructure automation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.